Hey guys, I have a nice little update for all of you. This is pretty good. So, the last update I had for you in regard to the Court of Federal Claims was just talking about how the case is on the docket. Well, I have some nice little, some more info for you guys. Now, for those who don't know, you can check this case by going to PACER.gov and looking for case 18-1712. Now, if you look specifically just for 18-1712, you will get pages and pages and pages of cases. So you need to search 18-1712 Guskin. You have to specifically look for my last name. You will see either one or two cases that pop up. The one that was filed on October 29th is our case. So, I'm not exactly sure how much I've updated you guys on. There's been a lot going on. So, to kind of just go briefly into this, we have been assigned an opposing counsel. This attorney will be representing the Department of Justice, who will be speaking on the behalf of CPS, Baltimore County, the state of Maryland, all that kind of stuff. So this gentleman will be representing the DOJ and ultimately the United States government. He was assigned to the case. Now, I've got quite a few pages to go through. I'm going to try and keep this fairly short. Some of this does get a little bit repetitive because I found multiple motions saying some of the same things. So I will try to cut out the redundancies. What I'm going to read to you right now is the Court of Federal Claims docket. This is ultimately the where the case information is being displayed. Now, as you guys know, this case has been sealed, which means there is some information that is public information for public knowledge or public consumption, and some is not. I'm going to be looking at this and looking at what is sealed compared to what is not sealed, and I will be talking about what is not sealed for this particular video. So, as you guys saw previously, the date filed October 29th, sealed complaint against the USA. You guys saw that previously. Notice of assignment to Senior Judge Susan G. Braden. Notice of non-ECF case, which I believe means non-electronic filing case. Due to the fact that I am not an attorney, I cannot file any motions electronically. So that means lots of trips into DC. Great. A filing fee due. Our records indicate that a filing fee has not been received. The plaintiff must submit either the required filing fee or an application to proceed in forma pauperis. Probably butchering that. I'm going to say fee waiver. Fee waiver. Order. Plaintiff is directed to either pay the fee or fill out the fee waiver. 11/28/2018. Notice of appearance by, I'm not going to screw it, this is all public information anyway. Notice of appearance by Douglas Thomas Hoffman for the USA. Now, if you are a white hat, do not bother him, leave him alone, do not piss him off, do not. If you are a black hat and want to harass him and piss him off and just show how much of an asshole you want to be, you can look this up and get his contact information. I don't recommend pissing him off. So, to go on to the 7th number update on the docket. Sealed. Motion to proceed via fee waiver. Filed on December 4th. 8th motion. This one is not sealed. This is not sealed. So anything that I say coming after this is public information, public knowledge, and sorry, you can't do anything about it. So, motion, request to the court, filed by Jennifer Guskin. Service, December 4th, 2018. Response due, December 21st, 2018. Response due. Now, like I said, I have very, very limited experience in a courtroom, so I don't know with complete certainty what this means. I can figure it out pretty easily. Response due by 12/21/18. That ultimately means that the DOJ does not respond to the following content, which I will be reading to you. By December 21st, The judge plans to sign the following content on December 21st, which means that it will take effect on December 21st, 2018. First document here. Subpoena to produce documents, information, or objects, or to permit inspection of premises in a civil action. This goes to the Department of Justice, Department of Social Services, Howard County Medical Center, Dr. Ramos Salas, Dr. Cheryl Parks, Main Street Pediatrics, Greater Baltimore Medical Center, Reisterstown Branch of the Baltimore County Public Library, Jill and Thomas McFalls, Baltimore County Circuit Court, Baltimore County Police Department, Douglas Wink, Ralph Sapia, Christina Hudgens, and the state of Maryland. Now, for those who don't know, the last three names are attorneys who have previously served on this case or are currently serving on this case. Douglas Wink is Scott's initial first attorney. Ralph Sapia is my initial first attorney. Both of these people refused to present any of the evidence that we had on the case in court. Due to their legal malpractice, Iris had to spend 7 months in foster care. Christina Hudgens is Iris's current attorney, who is currently representing my daughter. So that is the subpoena. If the DOJ does not respond by December 21st, I get inspection of premises. Now, we have an emergency order to enact immediately. Sorry. Now, for amusement purposes, as you can see here, it says that there are blanks. For amusement purposes, I'm going to verbally add in my own dates. I hope you guys don't mind. Emergency order to enact immediately. On this 21st day of the month of December 2018, it has been determined that the following content is an appropriate response to the illegal actions of Baltimore County Department of Social Services Child Advocacy Center and affiliated parties. This signing judge has granted the following requests in the format of a legally binding court order. It has been concluded that the Department of Social Services Child Advocacy Center, DSS-CPS, and its affiliates are a clear and present danger to the health and safety of the general public, but especially Jennifer Guskin and her family. The following content is ordered to take immediate effect. Emergency injunction stopping all forced vaccinations until a comprehensive independent investigation into the safety of vaccines can be completed. The legally mandated HHS vaccine safety studies have not been conducted as required by the 1986 Vaccine Injury Compensation Act. Mandate for safer childhood vaccines. Requirement that vaccine injury symptoms be reported to VAERS, which is the Vaccine Adverse Effect Reporting System. Enactment of executive order blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption against DSS and affiliated agencies until a comprehensive independent investigation can be completed. Now note here, everybody, part of this lawsuit is suing the County of Baltimore and the State of Maryland. What this means is on December 21st, should the DOJ allow the judge to sign this, that means the judge can effectively freeze all funding to the State of Maryland and Baltimore County until an investigation is completed. Oops, I'm sorry. Emergency injunction halting child removals until a full and complete review of all cases, active and inactive, within the Department of Social Services can be independently investigated for similar criminal behavior. An investigation into and full review of the medical staff and hospital policies at Howard County General Hospital, Greater Baltimore Medical Center, and affiliates on how to handle DSS intervention in the treatment of a child. Requirement for doctors to be informed of tongue and lip tie and instructed on how to diagnose it. Criminal referral and or immediate arrest of the following. The social worker who initiated the substance exposed case, Jaslyn Jones, her supervisor, who signed off on Iris's removal, Tiffany Brown, Michelle Trudeau, the doctor who decided to come up with this entire false report on Iris's care and what happened in the hospital, Dr. Michelle Trudeau, foster care supervisor, Ben Levy, Iris's attorney, Christina Hudgens, and the foster parents, Tom and Jill McFalls, for the following crimes. Once again, let me go over that. Criminal referral and/or immediate arrest of Jaslyn Jones, Tiffany Brown, Michelle Trudeau, Benjamin Levy, Christina Hudgens, and Thomas and Jill McFalls. For the following crimes. Fraud, claiming Jennifer Guskin tested positive for marijuana to justify opening an investigation when she did not, is committing fraud. Making false statements to facilitate the continued abuse of Iris McFalls is fraud. Perjury, knowingly and willingly making false statements to a government agency or court. Harassment, ongoing unjustified contact and interference continued due to the initial action of fraudulently opening a substance-exposed newborn case. False imprisonment, holding Iris in GBMC and foster care on the basis of the fraudulent nature of this case. Assault, even though all parties involved were aware of Iris's parents taking great care to limit Iris's exposure to known cancer-causing substances, they, to this day, continue the ongoing assault of Iris's health by forcing Iris to remain with chemical-laden formula, food, diapers, and wipes. It is due to this that Miss Guskin intends to press charges for each individual instance of which Iris was given food, diapers, baths, or any other unnecessary cancerous exposures due to the fraudulent actions of DSS and affiliates. Now let me remind everybody, let me remind the court of public opinion that the judge put this on the docket because she intends to sign this on the 21st. The judge has read all of this, likely in fine detail, to see if what I've requested is doable. And it seems that she has determined that it indeed is. We have 7 months of cancer-causing diapers, wipes, foods, and of course vaccinations. You messed with a fire, and now you're going to get incinerated. Kidnapping, taking and keeping Iris under false pretenses. Contempt of court, prohibiting breastfeeding, taking Iris to a different doctor, and continuously exposing Iris to known cancer-causing substances. Excuse me. Prohibiting breastfeeding, taking Iris to a different doctor, and continuously exposing Iris to known cancer-causing substances are medical decisions that were made without consulting Iris's parents. These decisions, plus the reduction in visitation, are in violation of the court order and thus contempt of court. Child abuse. The above-mentioned actions committed against Iris is a clear display of child abuse. If DSS wants to continue to claim that Mr. McFalls and Ms. Guskin were neglectful, despite what the laboratory report from April 12th says, the laboratory report from April 26th, the day after DSS medically kidnapped Iris, is clear child abuse. Now, the next one is going to have to be updated. I'm going to have to add an extra count for this. However, we have attempted premeditated murder. Count 1. Iris McFall's lack of weight gain was due to tongue and lip tie, which is a genetic condition. It is known that those with said gene are more susceptible to vaccine injury. As Iris's tongue and lip tie diagnosis was on record, and the specialist overseeing Iris's case recommended that she receive genetic testing, the act of DSS vaccinating Iris, knowing that her reaction could be fatal, should be considered attempted murder. Count 2. Given Iris's obvious signs of vaccine injury, DSS is well aware that vaccinating Iris again could cause yet another negative reaction. However, they continue to attempt to force said vaccinations. This should be considered a second attempt of murder on Iris McFalls. Now, to clarify, Iris has been vaccinated a 3rd time. Yes, the foster parents and the foster care supervisor gave Iris a third round of vaccinations. Now, I will get back to that whole debacle as well, because that as well is going to be a degree of contempt of court. Why? You'll find out. Count 3. The ongoing harassment of Jennifer Guskin and repeated attempts to cause her to commit suicide should be considered a third count of attempted murder. This I will go on a slight tangent for. This deserves the respect of a slight tangent. It also deserves the respect of a very long memorial video. However, I'm not able to do that at this moment. Now, one thing that I have noticed is that CPS tends to make it a personal goal to cause parents to commit suicide. Why? It makes it easier for them to obtain the child without resistance. CPS intentionally targets parents who suffer with depression, PTSD, or other symptoms that make them more susceptible to suicide. And in doing so, they effectively cause the parent to commit suicide. I am encouraging the Court of We the People and the Court of the Court to consider evaluating murder, manslaughter, and murder charges for social workers who intentionally pushed for parents to commit suicide, or even cause children to commit suicide, because of course there are plenty of situations where children in foster care have committed suicide due to the abuse that they suffered in foster care. Going back. Human trafficking. Taking a person against their will and using their imprisonment and suffering for personal profit, usually in financial form. Human rights violations. The lengths DSS and affiliates went through to medically kidnap Iris is disgusting and should be considered a massive human rights violation. Crimes against children. All these actions taken against Iris McFalls are not unique to Iris. If these entities have committed these crimes to Iris, it means they have done this to other children as well. It means these monsters. It is time that these monsters be held accountable for their actions. Unsealing of the case 03-I-18-0000117. It is in the interest of we the people to have a complete understanding of how child protective agencies of the United States government operates. This case is a glowing display of what parents can do to not just protect themselves, but get their children back in the case of a fraudulent removal. Note, although as mentioned and requested in the first paragraph of Ms. Guskin's case submitted to the court, it is not listed in the recommendation section of the case. Ms. Guskin wants to be transparent and make sure it's clear to the court that Ms. Guskin is trying to respect court protocol and procedure as much as possible. As such, Ms. Guskin has included this separately to ensure complete transparency in her requests and recommendations. The immediate return of Iris McFalls and her belongings to her parents, Jennifer Guskin and Scott McFalls. Full restoration of Jennifer Guskin and Scott McFalls' rights over Iris McFalls. No other entity shall remain any custody or guardianship over Iris McFalls. Each item of Iris is not returned to be considered one count of contempt of court. A review of all forms signed since birth of Iris McFalls. Should Miss Guskin and Mr. McFalls choose to withdraw consent, their wish to do so shall be respected immediately. And a restraining order / order of protection placed against CPS, any and all CPS agents or agencies of any county or state Miss Guskin or her family may choose to reside. Jill and Thomas McFalls, Jennifer Sines, and Corey Guskin, prohibiting all contact, nor should they be allowed within 100 yards of Miss Guskin, Iris McFalls, and Scott McFalls, as they have shown a clear malicious intent for Miss Guskin and her family. And just for lulz, you can see right here the judge has not signed the court order yet. However, December 21st. If I have the time, I'll get into the significance of that date. I will probably actually run through this one very quickly. Most of it's been covered. We have the return of Iris McFalls. This is covered in the subpoena. All records of Iris, Jennifer, and Scott released to us. Criminal referral, restraining order. Now, did I get that? Yes. Okay. Sorry. DSS will pay for any and all future medical costs Iris, Scott, or Jennifer may incur due to CPS's continuous assaults on their mental and physical health. This includes physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, dental, vision, and any other health-related costs. CPS will fund organic breast milk and/or organic formula for Iris until Jennifer's milk supply is reestablished. Should Miss Guskin not be able to reestablish her milk supply, CPS will supply formula as long as Miss Guskin sees fit. CPS does not retain the right to refuse health treatment, as they have shown extremely poor decision-making ability in regards to this family. Due to the extreme stress caused by CPS, and that one of Jennifer Guskin's coping mechanisms of stress is to be around animals, CPS will procure a lifetime innovator membership for Miss Guskin and her family to the National Aquarium. Iris McFalls, Jennifer Guskin, and Scott McFalls, plus one guest each, are to receive free entry into any zoo, aquarium, or facility that engages in the conservation of animals or plants for the rest of their lifetimes. CPS is to pay for all costs affiliated with treating Jennifer's PTSD, which is significantly worsened by their illegal kidnapping of Iris McFalls. GBMC is to release the breast pump in Jennifer Guskin's possession to Jennifer Guskin, reimburse Scott McFalls for his payments made on said breast pump, and supply flanges as requested. This is to carry into any state and county Iris McFalls, Scott McFalls, and Jennifer Guskin choose to reside. However, Baltimore County / Maryland State maintains the burden of cost. Reimbursement to Scott McFalls and Jennifer Guskin for legal, parking, loan, and miscellaneous costs incurred due to the fraudulent and illegal interference of CPS. This is a tax-free amount of $25,000 to be released by CPS to Scott McFalls immediately. This is not considered a civil ruling and does not nullify potential civil action against the agency and other affiliates. Reimbursement of all funds received by the kidnapping of Iris. If money was received due to the illegal activities by CPS, every cent is to be returned to its source. Now, for transparency purposes, as many of you know, I am on disability for my PTSD. After Iris was born, she was also put on, not disability, but was given Medicare state insurance, which means that all of Iris's medical visits have been placed All of Iris's medical visits has been placed on the cost of the taxpayers, which means that the taxpayers have been funding not just CPS abducting Iris, but they've also been funding the subsequent abuses at these doctor visits occurring. So I want all of these following people to refund every single red cent that was spent back to the taxpayers. This includes the GBMC visits to Dr. Parks and Dr. Fuller's, the 5-hour tactical standoff initiated by CPS, foster family, social workers, attorneys, and court staff. No one should be financially benefiting from the rampant child abuse and fraud being committed by CPS and affiliated parties. The aforementioned people to be placed on the child abuse / sexual offenders registration list, prohibiting them from being around children, as they've shown themselves to be a clear and present danger to the public, especially children. Any parental rights or guardianship they may have over children to be terminated pending the results of a criminal investigation. Michelle Trudeau, Tiffany Brown, Jaslyn Jones, Ben Levy, and the foster parents Jill and Thomas McFalls. I will probably end up amending this to add in Iris's attorney as well, which would be Christina Hudgens. This stuff can be amended to add in other things as well. Considering the fact that this case is going to be ongoing pending what I find in the subpoena, I may end up having to add a couple of judges to this list as well. I'll get to that at a later date. Criminal referral and or immediate arrest, and I've already given you guys the charges. Now, I also have on here all cases within child protective agencies and affiliates to be reevaluated for similar illegal activities. If CPS has deceived, manipulated, and outright lied in order to facilitate in the completely unjustified kidnapping of Iris, it's highly likely this has been done to other families as well. The illegal actions of CPS and the lengths that they actively go to in order to tear up kind, loving, and supportive families needs to be investigated by the Council of Inspector Generals. Interesting segue for half a moment. I submitted a Freedom of Information Act request in regards to everything the government may have on myself, Scott, and Iris. That request is currently being evaluated by none other than the Office of Inspector Generals. Mental health evaluations for all affiliated agents with random drug tests to be done at the request of Scott McFalls, Iris McFalls, and or Jennifer Guskin. A full and complete audit of all affiliated agencies. Enactment of executive order blocking the property of persons suspected of human rights abuses against Michelle Trudeau, Tiffany Brown, Jaslyn Jones, Ben Levy, and the foster parents, Jill and Thomas McFalls, as well as the Baltimore County Department of Social Services, until an investigation by the Council of Inspector Generals can be completed. All parties involved in this matter will fully cooperate with Jennifer Guskin and Scott McFalls. This includes all legal, medical, and governmental staff and agencies who may be contacted in this matter. Any documentation and reasonable requests made by Jennifer Guskin and Scott McFalls are to be obeyed. Failure to do so may result in the immediate arrest for interference with a human trafficking investigation at the discretion of Jennifer Guskin and Scott McFalls. This quarter grants any responding officer permission to arrest anyone who may be interfering in the investigation conducted by Jennifer Guskin and Scott McFalls. Unsealing of this case, including any potential ex parte hearing information, is in the best interest of we, the public. For this case to be unsealed so that it can be used not only to return other children who were kidnapped from their families, but it will also be a major asset in the assistance of the multitude of ongoing investigations into links between CPS and human trafficking. Recommendations for federal whistleblower protections. Given the evidence presented before the court, it has been concluded that CPS targeted Jennifer Guskin in an attempt to keep her from talking about the abuses she incurred as a child. She was aggressively targeted by malicious government agencies for coming forward about the links between CPS and human trafficking from being a survivor of CPS abuses. Jennifer Guskin and her family should be given full whistleblower protection status. I would also like to return to the court in 1 month to ensure that both Iris and the investigation into DSS's actions are progressing well. Final point. Once again, things can be amended. This was the initial number that I picked when this case first started. This will be adjusted to reflect the vaccinations that you've assaulted Iris with. Pending potential negotiations with aforementioned parties. Financial compensation of $117 million from each defendant. This number has been chosen to match the case number on the Senate case brought about by the fraudulent actions of the defendants in this case. However, the plaintiff is interested in negotiations with all aforementioned parties to ensure that policy and procedure is changed to ensure that a situation like this never happens again. Now, as I'm sure you guys can imagine, there are certain names in this case where their negotiation ship has sailed. There are other parties in this case who I have been more than willing to negotiate with and have shown their willingness to negotiate with me. And that's been taken into account. That being said, my first and foremost priority is getting all this mess investigated, getting all these people taken off the street, and having these people held accountable. We need to get these families back together. That needs to be the first and foremost priority. Now, I have something scheduled for around 6-ish. I will finish this and get to that. But I do want to say something else about the significance of the date on this case. The date that the DOJ has to respond is December 21st, 2018. That is the 1-year anniversary of President Trump signing the executive order blocking the property of persons suspected of human rights abuses and corruption. The 1-year anniversary. Now, something else to note is December 21st is a Friday, which means that the judge plans to sign this order on a Friday, which means that the judge plans to allow arrests on a Friday, which is a time where these individuals most likely will not be able to be processed until Monday. But wait, there's more. Monday is Christmas Eve. I don't know if the courts are going to be able to process you on Monday, which means that you might have to wait until at least Wednesday before you're seen in front of a judge. Would you like to spend Christmas in jail? I would certainly enjoy Christmas, and knowing that human traffickers and child abusers will be behind bars, and that it's going to be starting a glorious domino effect of arrests and unsealings. Now, one thing I also want to mention is, as I mentioned earlier, the CPS case that I have, the case number is 03-I-18-000117. This is very unusual. Why is this unusual? When a case is filed in court, the first number, in this case is 03, is usually representative of the month the case was filed. Iris was taken in April, which means the case should have been 04, not 03. 03 is very interesting because that is when the first wave of indictments initially hit the waves. The first wave of indictments were initially filed between October of 2017 and March of 2018. It is within that time span that we believe that Sessions activated Huber, and these sealed indictments are associated with John Huber. Now, to further move on with that speculation, the case 03-I, usually in CPS cases there is a C there, I'm assuming indicating child. I, unusual, could stand for infant. However, when I've called the court to find out what's going on with my case, and I say I, they usually don't have a fucking clue of what I'm talking about. Why is that? Does it stand for infant? Or does it stand for indictment? Now let's go to the 18 is usually representative of the year that the case was filed in. Makes sense. Let's go to the 000117. For the record, the 17 is not lost upon me. I don't think it's lost upon anybody with any degree of mental fortitude. Thank you. Q team. Now, 117 means it's the 117th case of this type filed within Baltimore County. I believe circuit court, I'm not sure what it works on that degree. Interestingly, when I went to court, the vast majority of child-related cases, C cases, were in the 10,000 range back in April. Why would this I case be 117? Put two and two together if you haven't already. I've asked for an investigation from the Office of Inspector General. The people who are doing my Freedom of Information request is the Office of Inspector General. The attorney representing CPS in the United States government works for the Department of Justice. Who's running these investigations into Hillary Clinton's emails? Hillary Clinton, queen of human trafficking. Head of the largest human trafficking enterprise probably on this planet. And you don't know how far it goes, not yet. You will. You're not going to like it. But we're doing everything that we can to get everybody that we can back. And I give you my word on that one. We will not stop fighting. We will not stop looking. And we will not stop holding these people accountable for their crimes. I would really like to leave this off on a good note, but I think that's a nice way to leave this. So guys, if you want to look into this, another thing you should know is that PACER.gov does charge a small fee. I believe it's 10 cents per lookup. So if you want to look this up to get the actual docket itself, I believe will cost you 10 cents. Yeah. Yeah, it's got my login. No, sorry, not sorry. It'll cost you about 10 cents if you want to be able to see the part that is not sealed, the motion, the request to the court, and see what the judge seems to be planning on signing on the 21st, guys. It'll cost you another 10 cents, I believe, to just click the link and pull it up. I could be wrong. It might cost more. It might not cost anything. There's certain fees that are worth paying, at least for me. This is definitely one of them. So, in closing, thank you. Thank you, Q-Team. Thank you, POTUS. Thank you, Judge Braden. Thank you to everybody who's involved in this. Thank you, Anons. Yeah, I really, thank you to military, everybody right now who's protecting the whistleblowers, who's protecting us. And thank you to all of my friends who I haven't seen in years, who I know you're out there. I know some of you at least are watching this. I miss you. I love you. I can't wait to see you again. And once again, to everybody in the Q team, thank you to everybody who is doing what you can to make this transparent, bring this to the attention of we the people, and bring everybody back together. So on that note, before she starts jumping up, do you want to say hi? Come on. Come on. Come on. Come say hi. Atta girl. So on that note, guys, I love you all. Where we go one, we go all. God bless.